Okay, Ricky, what's going on this morning?
So, yeah, currently it's Father's Day, so we did some cart maintenance, because what else would you do on Father's Day?
Yep.
And now we're trying to make the Duster run better.
Yeah, a little tune-up. So what seems to be the problem here, huh?
The top end runs fine. We have plenty of power. It's a little cold-blooded, and at part throttle or at idle and drive, it doesn't want to.
Right, so it looks like in drive warmed up, you're super lean, and then part throttle driving, you're super rich.
Yeah.
So the other day, I pulled the front of the carburetor off and checked the power valve size, and we had a 6.5. So in an effort to tune up this car a little bit better and make some changes before we go to the track, we're looking at the power valve. So we have an air-fuel ratio meter, and it shows that we run rich at part throttle, and the way you tune that is with the power valve. So what we have, kind of hard to see, but the power valve in the carburetor, the numbers are stamped here, and you can't read them, but it's stamped here and here and all the way around. And it's a 65, which means it's 6.5 inches of manifold vacuum as measured with the vacuum gauge. The power valve will open. So we have much lower vacuum than that. We're going to do some more testing to determine the exact power valve we ought to be running, but a little bit of power valve tuning should help this thing run a lot better, especially at part throttle and hopefully starting and idling a little better. I think this power valve's open just off idle, and it's not helping us any. We're super rich, and just get this thing tuned up a little bit more. Got a few other changes, and we'll show you in a little bit. So we got ourselves, once you pick up that gauge. Yeah, so we got a vacuum gauge. Good tuning tool. And so what we're gonna do is, so the vacuum advance is on the ported side. So I'm gonna pull that off, because when we tune this up, you wanna leave the, why don't you hold the camera, Ricky? When you tune this up, you wanna leave the vacuum advance completely out of the circuit. So this is the ported, and I verified that with the gauge. So I'm gonna go ahead and plug the ported side, and then the manifold side, we'll plug the gauge straight in, and we'll see what we have. But the first thing I wanna do is we'll set the fuel mixture right here with we have the AFR, and we'll set the mixture to about 14.5 idle in gear, and see if we can get this thing to smooth out.
Right, because yeah, we start the car before we go up to stage and waiting for everybody to drive up, and it just doesn't like to run very well.
Right, so we'll go there, and then I believe we have pretty low vacuum, and the power valve is probably too high and is open at part throttle. So we're gonna put the camera down and do some tuning up, because it's just gonna be noisy and it doesn't make for good video. But we can show you what it looks like from the gauge, and then we'll go ahead and show you our after. So we'll get a before and then an after. Okay, this will be a before. Ricky's gonna start it up. Okay, an AFR showing 14.6.
Yeah, it's idling pretty good here in park.
And we're at, that's pretty low RPM. A little lower than we thought. Okay, now put it in gear. And now, hard to see, but it's super lean. So that's
16,
where
17,
I'm gonna put the camera down, and I'm gonna go ahead and see if we can richen this up in gear. Also, before we get started, yeah, it's jumping around a lot. Okay, hard to see. We're in park and about 13.3.
It flashed up to 14.
Yeah, okay, put it in gear. Now in gear.
Now we're sitting 14.
About low 14. So that's a lot better.
Yeah, because we were showing like 16, 17, 18. So
yeah, this is a better starting point. Our vacuum is still all over the place. I'll show you that. Okay, Ricky, so what we saw at idle in gear, we got our mixtures much better.
Right, it idled a lot better, but it's really hard to tell in the video that vacuum gauge is all over the place, but it's more looking like 5 to 6
at idle in gear.
Yes.
So
And that's where we're having most of our problems.
yeah, and it runs terrible. And then when we stage and leave at what, 1500?
1500, no more than 2000.
Right. So he got on the converter 1500 and 11 steady. So while we're staging, our power valve is definitely not open, so that's not throwing things off.
And then we have a 6.5 in the rim.
6.5. So if we went with the 11, it would put us towards a 5.5.
Which we're still too big.
Right. So I think the next thing I do have a longer piece of tubing. Let's hook up the gauge and go take it for a little ride down the road and see what our part throttle as we're cruising is.
Right.
And I'm kind of leaning towards maybe a 4.5, maybe a 3.5, and hey,
A little less 2.5.
because I don't want it. Well, in gear, the power valve shouldn't matter because you're on your idle circuit. So as soon as you pick up the throttle, then it matters.
Right.
But what we're trying to do is gain some consistency by not following the plugs being too rich when we don't need to be.
They weren't. I don't think they were as bad as last year, but when we changed them out last week or 2 weeks or whatever, they were a little fouled.
Right.
And we picked up mile an hour after changing them that next time out. So there is definitely a difference.
So I'm definitely open to suggestions on what power valve we ought to have in this. And I'm thinking about buying either 3.5 or 4.5, and easy enough to change. So, and they're like $12.50.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Probably start at 3.5.
Yeah, we'll see how it runs and be prepared to change it on the fly if we have to. So let's go take it down the road and see what we got going down the road. Okay, guys, we're cruising about 13 to 1, 1800 RPM, steady vacuum at 15, but we're richer than we'd like to be. But we go stupid lean. So we get to the end of the road here, or just stop at the bottom of the hill. Let's go ahead and stop the car. See where we are in gear. Okay, now we're at 14.5 air-fuel ratio, roughly. Really crummy vacuum.
Can we put it in park, see what it does?
Yeah, go ahead. Is that park?
Yeah, it's back to where it was.
Yeah, we're 13 or so. Fairly steady at about 8. Okay, go. We left vacuum advance out of the circuit again and probably just leave it off. Steady vacuum while we're driving, and we're rich. We're real rich.
We're at 3,000. It's 1,800 again.
Yeah. All right.
Well, at 1,800 now, it's showing 14, 15. Now it's at 13.
Yeah. All right, let's get it up to 3,000 in high gear. It's about 55, and see what we got. Okay, we are real rich, 11.5 and 15 inches.
Touching 12.
Yeah. All right, Ricky. So to wrap up this video, what do you think? So we need a power valve.
Yeah, but we, just by a little bit of tuning, probably could have done this a long time ago, but just a little bit of tuning, it is running better in drive and in park, warmed up.
And we did check full throttle. We're right at 11.8 to 12.2 air-fuel ratio.
Yep.
So perhaps we can go a little leaner in the primary if we have to, but we're going to try the power valve first.
Right, we're going to change one thing at a time.
Yep.
And yeah, so we're thinking 3.5.
Yeah, I think a
power
3.5.
valve.
Yeah.
And right now we're at 6.5, so it's going down quite a bit. But
yeah, so we'll get that in and we'll let you know how that works. And
so at full throttle, how'd that feel?
yeah, it feels like it runs pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, it hit pretty hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, with that,
Okay, Ricky, race day tomorrow, and we changed the power valve.
we went down from a 6 to a 2.5, so quite a bit.
Yeah, 6.5, 2.5. And our mid-range, our part throttle, we're still running, hard to see, pretty rich still. So we'll probably go down primary jet size, but
Yeah.
not tonight. We're gonna
Right.
race it tomorrow the way it is, and maybe after we're done racing, we'll change jets.
Yeah, we're gonna get down to a little bit of highway cruising here in a second and see what it really wants, you know, up to in third gear, cruising down the road. Yeah, probably still too rich.
Yeah, that's really rich part throttle.
Yeah, I feel like we got richer.
Well, that doesn't make sense.
Now we're at 13.
Okay, that's better
Yeah,
cruising.
this is just cruising. My foot like just sitting.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, if you're still watching, thanks for watching, and like and subscribe if you can. If we earned it, and we'll get this figured out. We're not done tuning on it.
Yeah. We'll see you tomorrow at the track.
All right.